guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm trying to do something a little bit different, which is why I'm in front of the camera, which is something that I have to honestly get more comfortable with. What I have behind me is my 2006 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. It is actually my first car. I've owned this car for 14 years, and that obviously makes it my first daily driver. With that being said, one of the biggest questions that I get asked on this channel, on Instagram, in a lot of places is, hey, I want an Evo, I just don't know if it's a good daily driver, and I get asked that pretty often. So today I'm going to be discussing why this car specifically may or may not make a good daily driver for you, the viewer, and a little bit of history as far as daily drivers. I've had everything from Civic. Currently I daily drive a 2015 Civic Si, which is a great daily driver, but I've had them all from Civics to Volkswagens. I've had quite a few daily drivers that are Volkswagens, Golf Rs in particular, which are pretty expensive for what they are. They obviously come with a lot of amenities. So today we're going to be discussing how this car compares to those types of cars. So let's hop into it. All right, guys, so we're going to kick this off with the negatives, so the cons, and the reason why I want to do that is I don't want to end this video on a bad note. So is the Evo a good daily driver? In my personal opinion, I do not believe that it is. However, that may depend on you as a person and what it is that you want out of a daily driver. Me personally, with all the daily drivers that I've had, I do not believe that this car is a good daily driver. So let's get to it. First one is going to be gas. So obviously this is a combustion engine car, and it's obviously all-wheel drive. If obviously you're watching this video, you know some things about the Evo. It is an all-wheel drive car, and when it was designed and manufactured, MPGs was not something that was put on the priority list. This car actually has a lot of heritage with rally, and racing is the #1 priority. That the roots of this car basically come from rally. So rally and MPGs, they don't mix. So this car is really bad on gas, even in stock form, and it only gets worse as you modify the car itself. So, and then not to mention as well, you have to use premium at a minimum. So for the guys running E85, obviously that's a completely different topic, but 93, if you're in the US, it's 93. Unless you're in Cali, then it's 91. But this car has to run on premium gas, which obviously is not an ideal setup for a daily driver that you basically don't want to worry about. This car is not exactly too, in my opinion, too expensive to maintain. However, it's not exactly cheap either. When it comes to spark plugs and different things, it's like right in the middle. So it's not like obviously not like an exotic or anything like that. A lot of people make this car sound like, you know, you need to have double the money stashed in order to actually maintain one. That's not exactly true, but it's not exactly cheap either. So parts are not cheap like in the Honda world. And then not to mention too, parts are also becoming very difficult to get because of they're starting to discontinue parts. Mitsubishi is. And then not to mention this car uses a lot of specific parts that you can't get from other cars. So it does share some things with the Lancer, but believe it or not, it's not much. So a lot of things that this car has are very specific to this particular specialty car. The next negative list of reasons why this car may not be a good daily driver is the lack of amenities. So as I hop in this car, now granted, this car is from the mid-2000s, I get that, but even compared to cars back then, this car still lacks a lot of amenities. For starters, there is absolutely no cruise control in here. So that is probably the biggest downfall when it comes to amenities. So that means on long road trips and stuff like that, you're gonna have to have your foot on the gas pedal the whole time, which is pretty annoying in my opinion. Another small little detail that people don't really discuss, let's say you just wanted to make a quick lane change and you didn't want to hold the actual stalk all the way over here for turn signals. Most cars, if you were to just do that, it'll blink 3 times and then you don't have to worry about it. With this doesn't have that, so you got to sit there and do that. It does not have hill assist, so if you live anywhere that has hills, because I remember even the 8th generation Civics had hill assist along with some other cars. This car does not have it. When it comes to over here, there's really not much going on here. You get these knobs and they're actually pretty cheap. I could actually pull one out. I believe it's this one, so you can pull these out. It's a pretty cheap interior. Obviously this was not the focus point when this car was designed. In addition to that, it is really loud in here. Even if it's in stock form with the stock exhaust, I still remember it was loud, it was rattly. So you're gonna have to get used to that, especially if you're coming from a different type of daily driver that had all those amenities. The turn radius is absolutely atrocious. You only get a turn and a half when it comes to the Evo. That's it. And that's probably the biggest complaints that you'll see for the Evo. Imagine having to do that on a daily basis. It's pretty annoying. Additionally to that, guys, the seats. Let's talk about the seats real quick. The seats are great. Don't get me wrong. They're Recaros, and everybody loves them because not too many cars come with Recaros. However, these seats do not adjust up and down with height. So like what you see is what you get. So if you're short, if you're tall, this is what you get. There are some modifications through aftermarket options, but in stock form, this is what you're gonna get unless you want to install some crazy aftermarket seat. Additionally, there's nothing crazy when it comes to this. Obviously, it just goes back and forth, and that's it. Other than that, that pretty much covers the interior. You only get one of these is automatic, and it's not automatic on the way up. So that's something that I feel like would be useful when it comes to daily driver. Next up, if this is not your first car and you did have a daily driver that was from the modern era, you're gonna have a hard time adjusting to the lack of amenities. So keep that in mind. Yes, the car is great overall. However, all those little small amenities, it's gonna be really a big curve for you guys to adjust to. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough is having something watered down. So if you were to daily drive this car on a daily basis, it's gonna get watered down. If you were to eat the same thing, no matter how much you love it, if you were to eat the same thing every day, over time, you're gonna get sick of it. And that tends to happen with daily drivers because you're driving it so often to run errands, to go to work, and to do things that aren't exactly things that are pleasure, like it does water it down. So eventually it's not gonna be as fun. So if you were to have a daily driver that's not the Evo, this makes this car a lot more fun because when you do get to drive it, you're basically driving it because you want to. Last of the negatives, in my opinion, is gonna be the urge to modify this car. Ideally, you do not wanna modify a vehicle that you daily drive and have to rely on, because if you break it, that is it. So my recommendation would be to not modify the car if you do decide to have this as a daily driver. All right, now let's talk about some of the positives. If you're watching this video, you have some sort of idea what this car is. If not, obviously you're looking into buying one. Now, you obviously know that these cars were designed for racing and for fun and for basically it's a niche car. That's what it is. It's not the typical car. I've never heard of anybody buying an Evo and then they just bought it just because, you know, they just needed a car. Usually the guys that buy these cars are into cars and they want this as a hobby. With that being said, this is a very fun car to drive. Very fun. When you are driving it to work, to run errands and whatnot, you can have fun at the same time. Another positive with daily driving an Evo is your car, even in stock form, is going to be faster than the majority of cars out there. So you won't have to worry about having to catch up to somebody when you're trying to make lane changes or getting on an off ramp or whatever it is that you're trying to do. This car will have more than enough power, which is kind of crazy to believe because this car is from the mid 2000s, had roughly about 300 horsepower. That's still pretty decent in today's standards. So you won't have a lack of power when it comes to this car if it were to be your daily driver. Now, the last reason why this may be a good daily driver for you is you're driving something with a lot of heritage and it's not very common. These cars are pretty rare, especially the 8s and 9s. I rarely see Evo 8s and 9s. So if that is important to you, not being like everybody else, this is a good option for you because this car, you're not going to see it. And then not to mention, you get the privilege of knowing that you're driving something special because these cars were made to be special. It's not like a typical Civic or Corolla, so on and so forth out there. These cars were designed with a specific purpose, which is racing first, and then it can basically do everything, errands and all that other stuff as well. So is the Evo a good daily driver? Well, that depends. It depends on what it is that you, as the driver, are looking for when it comes to a daily driver. So hopefully I was able to answer some questions and provide you with some positive feedback if you're looking to buy an Evo as a daily driver. I did not want to touch the subject of reliability just because that's completely overblown in my opinion, and I'm going to make a separate video on that topic and everything else. So I didn't want to touch it. Other than that, this is going to wrap it up for this one, guys. If you have anything that maybe I missed or you wanted to add, go ahead and drop them in the comments That's going to be for this one. Take it easy, and I'm out. Peace.